Hello and welcome back to another episode of Hollywood Wargaming. Today we have some news updates for Star Wars Legion and some pretty interesting developments for Legion that were revealed during the day one of the September 2021 Ministravaganza hosted by Atomic Mass Games. And I gotta say, this is fresh off the stream and it is very much something that came out of the left field. So you are going to be getting some incredibly hot takes on this from me right now. And our first major Legion segment of the Ministravaganza was titled Into the Underworld, and a lot of people had a lot of speculations as to what that was going to be. It originally said we were going to be teased a few familiar characters, but we really did get a whole lot more than just a few, with the reveal of what seems to be an entire Scum faction for Star Wars Legion, though the official admin on the Atomic Mass Games streams did say they were going to be mercenaries, which seems to imply that they will be able to be plugged into different factions and run in different lists, though they did specify that they can also form lists of their own. But we did get a neat little teaser trailer here showing some of the newer models, and while some of them are things that we seem to have expected, some of them are really out of the left field again here, and are models that no one really ever expected to show up in Legion. So first up here we have what seems to be Prince Xizor from Shadows of the Empire, which if you were around in the 90s was a huge push from LucasArts to promote third-party Star Wars content, and I think it did play a major role in kind of kickstarting that golden era of Star Wars video games. But that's never something I ever thought I would see again under the Disney licensing. But if it is him, it's a very fitting commander for the Scum and Villainy faction. But we did also get some of the Pike Syndicate, who seem to be our Scum core units for now. And these guys are a gang of spice runners who I believe are in charge of Kessel and were featured in the Solo story. But these guys are just really out there in terms of releases. I don't think anybody was expecting these guys to ever show up in Star Wars Legion, but they are very, very nice sculpts. But some things that probably have people more excited are going to be Darth Maul appearing in his Shadow Collective getup with the Darksaber, along with some of those Mandalorian commandos who followed his command and decorated their armor in his fashion. And I gotta say, the model for Darth Maul here looks a little bit funky. It might just be a bad photo. It does appear to be a little bit out of focus, but someone on the Legion Discord pointed out that he has an orc face from the Lord of the Rings miniature line. But aside from that, it is a pretty fantastic looking model. I do like the pose quite a bit. And the one Mandalorian Commando model that we've seen does look absolutely A+. Great paint job and pose, and I'm sure those ones are going to be very exciting if you can slot them into different factions. But overall, I do have very mixed feelings about this announcement. If you guys follow my channel, you've seen lately that I've been doing videos on units I need to see in Star Wars Legion before the game ends. And while I point out in those videos that I don't believe Star Wars Legion is coming to an end anytime soon, I definitely had some motivation in doing those scripts, and personally I feel like this is a release wave that Legion doesn't really need right now, and to hit us with a new faction and dramatically different list building mechanics before the Separatist or Republic even have 3 core options feels like we might be jumping the gun on priorities a little bit here. And getting units like the Pike Syndicate before we get things like Commander Cody does kind of rub me the wrong way. And while I think Maul and his Mandalorian allies are a great addition to the game, we did just get Maul released very recently. In fact, many players still don't even have the initial release of Maul as it hasn't restocked since it first came out, at least not here in the US. And honestly, I just feel like there's a lot of things that they could have caught up on before going out and introducing a wave like this. Rebel and Imperial players especially need some love right now, and I think another Kashyyyk-sized wave would have put a good cap onto the Clone Wars before they went out and did something like this. Now, obviously this doesn't mean that we're not going back to the Empire, Rebels, or Clones, but with everything from the Kashyyyk wave being pushed back to a release date of Christmas 2021, we're probably not going to be seeing any new units for the original 4 factions until the end of 2022, and that's not AMG or Asmodee's fault. Global shipping right now is a mess. But I do find it unfortunate that this is what they chose to follow up the Kashyyyk wave with. I'm sure there's plenty of you out there who don't agree with me and are very excited for a Scum and Villainy faction, and I have no issues if you do feel that way. And overall, I don't think this release or announcement is anything that's bad for the game. I just don't think it's the right time for this type of release. And personally, I don't think this is the best use of their resources at the moment, as we know they have gone through some managerial changes with the switch from FFG to Atomic Mass Games, and things have been rocky to say the least. And you know what, if they just released Darth Maul with his Shadow Syndicate reprint, along with his Mandalorian cohorts, I don't think I would have as many issues with this announcement. But when I look at those Pike Syndicate troopers, as cool as the models are, I don't really see them selling a whole lot unless their unit cards are super competitive, and if they are good enough to fly off the shelf, I do think that's going to imply some sort of power creep, which could have a very strong implication on cross-faction units. But that of course is all my own personal conjecture and speculation. I could be totally wrong here, even when it comes to the release dates of future units, and with this only being one day into Ministravaganza, they could announce more units for the original 4 factions alongside Scum and Villainy, though I wouldn't bet any money on it. But before I get too down on this announcement, we are going to have some positive notes. However, before we move on to that, I do want to say one more thing, which is on the topic of stuff I usually try and avoid talking about on this channel, as I see a lot of people out there posting things like, you should be happy they're releasing anything at all, or Atomic Mass Games gives you stuff and you're still complaining, and honestly, I do expect at least one comment in the comment section down below saying something like that. And while I understand that people want to avoid the community getting too negative, I don't think that is a valid rebuttal to genuine concerns. We, as consumers, are all allowed to have our own opinions, we are allowed to voice them, and at the end of the day, if a company is going to be pushing out products that their consumer base isn't interested in, they are simply not going to buy them. And that in turn would hurt the company who invested all the time, money, and resources into having those models designed, printed, and shipped, more so than simply not making that product in the first place would. But let's move on to the more positive aspects I have about this release wave. And first of all, the big thing that saves face with the Scum faction for me is that you can use these units as mercenaries in other factions, though I would like to see some restrictions on this, as I really do like the asymmetry of Star Wars Legion, and I feel like having cross-faction units too much may degrade that a little bit. But it is a great format in which we can get units like the Mandalorian or Hondo into the game, and I do wonder a bit why they didn't start with one of those characters before Darth Maul, who was just released. On top of that, I want to say that all of these models do look really good, like I mentioned earlier. The design team behind Legion has been doing such a good job over the years, and each new release only gets better in quality, sometimes in very stark improvements. And my favorite example of this visual representation is taking a look at Clone Captain Rex, followed up by the Phase 1 unit upgrade expansion, and then the ARC Troopers. And in that short window of time, you see dramatic improvements. And aside from Maul's face, which again I think is an issue with that screen grab more so than anything else, these are all very top-notch models. And I think those Pike Syndicate Troopers are honestly obscure enough to where people playing other science fiction games that are miniatures agnostic may actually pick them up for different game systems. And lastly, I gotta say, there was definitely a huge demand for Renegade Maul and his Mandalorian followers, but there was always the question as to how they would fit into the game, and I suppose this is the best way to do it. And as I mentioned earlier, is going to be a good platform for other characters, perhaps even Savage Opress, who we may see teased in the coming days. So overall, I just want to close out this video by saying that I don't think this is a bad release for the game. I just think it's something they perhaps should have waited on a bit, as I would have liked a little bit more closure for the prequel factions, and also a quick update for Empire and Rebels, perhaps some Inquisitors and Jedi characters from the Rebels TV show. And then I probably wouldn't be as concerned about them releasing a Scum and Villainy faction. It is something that felt a little bit inevitable, but I do feel like we are leaving a somewhat unfinished project and immediately going on to the next one, which in addition to recent events does have me a little bit concerned that I may not see some of the units I really want to see for Legion, though I will be a very happy man if that is something that I am wrong about. But let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below. Are you very excited for this wave? Are you going to start a Scum and Villainy faction? I do have to pose the question, for all the people who've been talking about a Scum and Villainy faction and wanting one, I wonder how many are actually going to go out and buy the models for it. But let me know in the comments section down below. Please do be civil about it. I'm sure a lot of people are riding the hype train right now, and I'm not trying to drag anyone off of it. I'm just giving you guys my honest take on this reveal, and the implications I think it has on Legion. And once again, this is fresh off the stream, and only one day into the Ministravaganza, so my opinions could completely change in the near future. But as always, if you guys enjoyed the video, go ahead, leave a like, consider subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications, as we are going to have more updates. And until then, take care.